Hi, I'm attorney Tammy Saltzman, and you are watching Divorce Connection Network. Today, I am so pleased to introduce all of you to Josette Veltri. Hi, Josette. How are you?
Good.
Josette is here. She has over 20 years of experience in the HR profession, and we are going to talk about transitions, when you have to go back to work, or when you are possibly underemployed and your spouse wants to do a vocational evaluation of your skills to see if you could possibly be working at something that can earn you more income. So HR is an interesting field, and you have a lot of experience placing people. One of the first questions my clients, female clients especially, ask me is, how do I get back into the workforce after raising my children? So is it possible that you can address that and maybe give a tip to the audience when you are getting back into the workforce? What is some of the steps you could take to help yourself along?
Okay. The first thing that we need to do is kind of assess what it is that we do, our competencies, our assets, what our contributions are, the time commitment we can make. These are all very important even before we decide what kind of field to go into, what position to apply to. If we do not understand the skills that we have, we're housewives transitioning into a profession, we're moms transitioning into a profession, we have time management skills, we have event planning skills, we're detailed, we're multitaskers. So all of this should be considered way before we even decide what kind of position we're interested in.
That's really good advice, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. Quite often on an interview, they're going to ask you what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. I know my strength is in marketing, and my strength is in sales. I'm the rainmaker for my firm.
Right.
I bring in all the new business. My weakness is patience. I have zero. My sons will tell you, and my daughter, no patience. Mom has none. So, and we work on our weaknesses. And, sometimes someone comes to me, they don't have good computer skills. So I tell them, go to a local community college, sign up for a Word class, Microsoft Word, Excel, and you're a paralegal, all you need. And you're right when you say being a mom gives you great time management skills, gives you great event planning skills. You're a salesperson.
Absolutely.
You sell dinner to your family every night, don't you?
That's
I mean, my son will say, how about Chinese food? And I'll say, how about eggs? And I got to sell him on why we should have omelets tonight and not Chinese food.
Yeah.
So that's a great topic. I know that back in the day there was a book called What Color is Your Parachute? I'm sure that book is still in print. Is there any other book that you can recommend someone read to try to identify what they would be good at?
There are multiple self-help books, and it's very important for us to first assess ourselves even before we think about what kind of career we're looking into, because we can come up with multiple ways for us to present these skills. So let's say we're in sales, we do Color My Parachute, or we read another self-help book, and we find out that I really want to do sales, or I really want to do marketing, or I really want to do accounting, I love budgeting. Except the fact that we can't commit to the time. So we need to assess, again, what is it that I am good at? What is the time commitment that I'm willing to do? Because when we're transitioning, honestly, the spirit and soul is willing, but the time commitments that we have and the other commitments we have, they're conflicting.
Right. I understand that, especially if you have young children still.
Correct.
And I find that a lot of moms think they have less time than they actually do.
Right.
They think, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to drive my kids here, but they really don't.
Right.
Like if they really were working, they realize how much more time they have as opposed to less time. Quite often in our divorce cases, one spouse usually says, not usually, but sometimes they say, they're underemployed. They could be earning more.
Right.
So how does the vocational process of evaluating a spouse work in a general form? What are some of the factors that you look at?
Well, sometimes it's very unrealistic of a spouse to put that much pressure on another individual. That's the first thing. Individuals should really assess themselves frequently regarding the position they're in right now versus what's going on in the marketplace. Sometimes we just get stuck and we say, this is the only position that I'm can be successful in, and that's not necessarily true. So we really never go outside to research what are other companies looking for. Do I have marketing skills? You may go out and find out, my skills are really not marketable. I've been in this position too long that I've actually have underemployed myself. So we really have to look back and say, am I working just for dollars? I mean, is that what it is? Is that what he's referring to?
Yes. In a divorce case, income will determine how much child support and alimony a spouse is entitled to. So if you have a typical case where a wife has been at home and maybe she's had a part-time job doing bookkeeping, say, and she's raising kids, and the husband and her are getting divorced, and the husband makes considerably more money, and he doesn't want, so which means that he's going to have to pay more money. So he wants the wife to be evaluated. He wants the wife, she's underemployed, she could do more, she has skills, and we want to impute income to them. So even if she chooses to take a part-time job, they're going to impute, and the court will impute a 40-hour work week. So even though we can say, what are your time constraints, once you're in the divorce court and the two of you can't agree, the judge wants you to be working 40 hours a week unless you have an infant or special needs child.
Okay. So in that specific time, if she's working part-time or not working part-time and going into part-time or going from part-time to full-time, at that particular time she does have to go to assess what it is that she can do. So if she's a bookkeeper, she may want to look at some accounting courses to say, well, let me go back and take some accounting courses to see if accounting is something that I want to do.
Right. So sometimes you get involved in a rehabilitation plan for the spouse and help them to take the necessary steps. I always tell my clients when they come in, this is your plan B. What was it that you dreamed of doing before you got married and had children? Is that still a viable plan for you? I went back to law school at 34 years old and graduated at 37. If I can do that, certainly many other people can do that. So I love a rehabilitation plan.
Here's the key. You had a strong enough why.
Yes.
And this is something that has to be addressed, because if they're being pushed out into the workplace, is that fair to say to them, well, okay, go use your skill sets now, when they don't have a strong enough why? So again, I think we need to take a step back. I understand where the courts are coming from, but we really do have to take a step back with them and say, okay, this is plan B. Let's take a look at your situation now, not at what the situation was, and let's see if we can find an opportunity for you.
Right. Well, that's where good goal planning comes in. What is it that you'd like to try right now? Where do you see yourself in 1 year? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? So it's always good to have a long-term plan, and that rehabilitation plan fits into that. And I have found in my experience that once a spouse who's been out of the workforce starts getting paychecks, they are very excited, very excited. I also find that once you get a job, you should automatically update your resume and still keep your eye on the Craigslists and your HR people who can maybe placement, so that you can increase. I remember when I first got into the paralegal profession, I was in sales. I couldn't get a job no matter how hard I tried because I had no experience. Finally, a guy offered me a job for $400 a week working as a receptionist helping the paralegal. And I knew all I needed was to get 6 months on my resume, and then I could make a job change. And in the interview, I convinced the guy, if I prove myself, in 3 months, I get a $50 a week raise. So I negotiated the raise before I took the job, and then at 6 months, I changed my resume around, and then I got a job for $500 a week. And then I said, if I prove myself in 3 months, I want $550. And so quickly, I went up to the ranks, and then I went to law school. Do you offer services to help spouses in the interview process that have been out of the interview process for a long time?
Yes, yes.
So you help them with their resumes, and you can have more than one resume.
You can, and for somebody who is entering the workforce and has not been in the workforce, I do recommend a functional resume versus a chronological, because we're putting our experiences and our skill sets and competencies up front rather
Right.
than what we've been doing.
I think that's wise, because if you're going for an event planning job, you'll need one resume, and if you're going for a bookkeeping job, you would need a completely different resume. So you can have more than one resume, and you also help with the appearance, what to wear, and you do questions and answers and practice.
Correct.
And moms out there, we tell our children every single day, practice makes perfect. So the more interviews you go on, the better you will get.
That's
Is that
correct.
true?
Absolutely.
Josette, it has been such a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Tammy.
So I want to let you know that Josette has a company. Tell them their name of the company.
Next Step New Start.
Next Step New Start. You will be able to find that information and her contact information on divorceconnectionnetwork.com. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.